Techbusters proudly brought to you by Ericsson.
Good evening and welcome to Techbusters. It's a Thursday night, which means that we bring you all good things technological on the show. Great to have you with us, and we want to hear from you what kind of technology you use every single day. On the show tonight, our hashtag is @TechbustersSA, and of course you can also tweet us. We're at Techbusters. Mr. Shapshak, good evening to you. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very good, Mr. Skinny Jeans.
I want to ask you something. You know, recently Ericsson ran this very interesting survey about wearable devices. Now we know we've got wearable watches and, heart rate monitors and, things that we're going to use with Bluetooth and everything. And it was interesting that the research found that more than a third of people that they researched will, believe that they will have at least 5 wearable devices that they will be wearing some parts on their bodies by the end of this decade. So, wearable technology is big business, and we're not talking just about Bluetooth earphones. Any idea which were the top 5 wearable technologies that Ericsson identified in this survey?
I don't know, but I use this very clever wearable piece called a wristwatch.
Yes. No, I'm talking about technology. Now, I've got the list over here. Check this out. In no particular order, each of these scored about a quarter. The one was, and we'd love to hear from you. Join that conversation at TechBustersSA. Tell us which wearables you would love to wear in the next 5 years. What do you want to hear about? Well, the first one was the panic SOS button.
Yes.
Which, if you think about, is quite
Great
clever
idea.
if you can have it some part of your body. A smartwatch, which you just spoke about, is one of the wearables that they speak about. A wearable location tracker,
Yes.
which is quite interesting.
Yes, especially for kids, for parents.
Exactly. The other one was an identity authenticator. So it's increasingly becoming something that people are petrified of when they pay for something. You want to be able to identify you and authenticate you, whether it's a credit card payment you're making. And the last one, which I found fascinating, was a wearable water purifier. So I think on the go, you can and if you think about it, the first thing you do when you go to a foreign country is you want clean water. You want bottled water.
I mean, it's of course going to be, I think the future world wars are going to be fought over water and food. So it's very much in line with where all the thinking is going. Anyway, fascinating way to start what is always a fascinating show. Let's look at what's coming up tonight.
Tonight on Techbusters, Aki heads off to the Cape to chat to Gert Schoonbee, MD of T-Systems South Africa. And we get physical with Dr. Craig Nossel from Discovery Vitality. All this and more tonight on Techbusters.
I was reading some interesting stats about 4G across the continent and in South Africa. And the most remarkable thing happened. I was flying in the helicopter when we had that protest action over Pretoria a few weeks ago. And, traditionally we'd use a radio frequency that I've been using for 20 years to broadcast, in a radius of, say, 50 kilometers, a VHF frequency. But on that day, I was flying somewhere over Hammanskraal, which is where the carousel is, north of Pretoria, probably 120, 130 kilometers away from Johannesburg. And there I was on my mobile phone making a Skype call, broadcasting from there to the studio in Johannesburg. And this is the extent at which we have 4G coverage. It's like all over the place. And we're on target to get to that 80% coverage of the country by 2018, which is a game changer, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And speaking of that helicopter trip, if you look on your screens now, this is what the producer and I have ambushed Aki with. This extraordinary photograph Aki Anastasio took from the helicopter, and you can just see it is a world-class photograph. It really captures the moment, the feeling of the day. We didn't tell Aki, we didn't want to embarrass him, but this is really quite something. And just for a bit of humor, we show you a couple of the other spoof pictures that popped up afterwards. You call it war, we call it Tuesday. I mean, that's a very South African sense of humor, just so you can see how talented my co-host is. Yes, so that's twice in one show I've complimented you. I must be coming down with something.
I'm flabbergasted. I have no words, but thank you. It's rare. I'll just take it for now.
Speaking of sophisticated technology, recently there was another remarkable event by SpaceX, the space exploration company. launched by South Africa's own Elon Musk. And the fascinating thing, as you can see from the footage, is that they have worked out how to land the first stage of the rocket. That's the booster rocket that lifts the spaceship up into the upper atmosphere before it goes off into space. And they've worked out how to land that rocket on a computerized barge, a robot barge. And you can see the footage of the rocket coming back down and landing on it. It is really utterly spectacular. Firstly, that you can land this rocket and reuse it, because they are worth between $30 and $35 million each, but also that you can land it on this barge floating in the middle of the ocean, robotically controlled. It's really fantastic. Fans of Ian M. Banks, the science fiction writer, would be especially pleased, because the barges are named after the mines of ships which have these unusual titles. There's a real sense of geek humor in all of that. When the first few blew up, and of course everyone said he couldn't do it, he came up with a very funny phrase, which was when the rocket blew up, he called it a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. If only that could happen just right next to me.
Oh, whatever. But the great thing about space exploration is that he's not the only game in town, and you're seeing guys like the likes of Jeff Bezos, who of course is the founder of Amazon. They've also got a space program. They're competing directly with Elon Musk's SpaceX, and it's just great to see this.
I think they're probably competing more directly with Virgin Galactic. They're more of a tourist,
and the rocket stuff as well.
Spaced tourist.
I think the rocket stuff as well, because at the core of the transportation of all these things into space are these rockets, and if they can use them again. It's extraordinary that here you have this guy who is subcontracting to NASA. That's the bottom line.
That really is
exciting
fantastic
stuff. Gert Schoonbee is the managing director at T-Systems, one of the largest ICT companies in South Africa, German headquarters. And certainly when you look at the African continent and how digital is transforming every single business, it's important to look at our local landscape and how this is impacting South Africa and the rest of the African continent. Gert, it's moving very quickly. Where do you see it all going? Are businesses coping with this digitization that's happening?
Yes, okay, it's very difficult to predict, and one can try and keep up. So for us, there's really two sides of this transformation. The one is to unlock value and leverage your current value from your legacy environment. And the second is to really get closer to the end consumer. So we work with our enterprise customers so that they can get closer and really treat their end consumers one by one. And that's all enabled by this digital world. But we look at it in those two different ways.
Well, when I look around at your conference over here, you've got smart cities, you've got the cloud infrastructure, you've got security, you've got sensors inside devices that look at when there's time to replace something. You've got medicine, for example, and healthcare. I mean, all of these industries making a massive impact. But it's all happening up in the cloud, right? Because it has massive impacts within companies and the IT departments.
Yes, it's very true. I mean, if you look at the transformation from ICT to digital, you can get confused by all these different business models and all the different trends happening at you at the same time. However, at the core of it, we believe the solution architecture of these new developments, whether it's Internet of Things or machine to machine, they're all based on the same solution architecture. You start with a device or a sensor or a notebook or a phone. Then there's a connectivity portion, irrespective of the protocols that you use. And that then runs on some kind of application that must run then on the cloud. The cloud really provides you with the abundance that's part of the digital transformation. And the abundance allows lower price points. If you don't have the lower price points, then you're not able to participate really on this journey. So cloud is quite important for us, and that's why we're leveraging whatever we can from our Deutsche Telekom heritage in Germany to bring the cloud. We've brought the cloud to South Africa 10 years already, and obviously we are part of that trend as it unfolds within South Africa as well.
You used the word colonization, which is an interesting term that you use, but just explain to us your thoughts, because I really found what you said really interesting, and I thought about it quite a bit, and the impact that it's having on the economy is quite scary.
if your return on capital over an extended period of time far out exceeds your economic growth rate, then there will always be this disequilibrium in capital flows. So why I'm talking about colonization of Africa is, as these public clouds become more and more and more a dominant player in the cloud world, also within South Africa and in Africa, we will keep exporting our data. So previously we exported our gold and our diamonds and that's the way that we were colonized. And now the same will happen in terms of us exporting our data. There it will be monetized in some way to these other countries. It would be monetized due to big data, etc. Then it would be sold back to South Africa and Africa. So I think from a capital flow perspective, money will continuously leave our country because these big computing platforms will be removed and go to where the big public cloud offerings are.
How do we stop this massive capital outflow of leaving this continent? Because, you know, the true growth is happening now, but we can't let this happen.
Yes, the scary part is every time you're going to click, some money will leave the country. I don't believe we must stop it. We must lean into the trend of the digital transformation, and we must make sure that we are mindful from a South African and a continent perspective so that we can be a strong player in this digital economy. It's a global economy, and therefore as a country you've got limited flexibility to rely on regulations only. Regulations only will make you uncompetitive in the digital economy. So I believe there's a couple of things that must happen. First of all, government must help with the regulations so that we create some level of protection. But to keep the economy competitive, we need to collaborate differently within the borders of South Africa and within Africa itself so that we can create a non-competitive, leveling the playing field, basic cloud infrastructure that we can then all feed from as service providers and as corporates to create our differentiation from there. But we need to make it attractive to keep the data in South Africa. And then the third element is then to collaborate with these big public providers so that we can leverage and be on the slipstream of the development roadmaps that they have for these big public clouds. Then I think we can be quite a formidable player in the future. So if we can keep the data within the country, a big part of it, I'm not saying some data may not leave. First, it keeps the capital in the country, it keeps some skills in the country, and it also then allow for the SMMEs and that we really need to create a partner ecosystem to be created around this environment.
Well, one of the most innovative companies in the world have got to be Discovery Health. You look at what they've done for health in South Africa, and you know, they're a benchmark for many international companies, and especially when you look at their Vitality program and how they're using, you know, the wearable technology that we have to basically gauge how healthy you are and reward you accordingly. I caught up with Dr. Craig Nossel at Discovery to talk about the wearable devices and the business of technology in health, and of course also the controversy, because a lot of people have been complaining that the algorithm is not giving you enough points if you're doing like vigorous health, and it's been quite controversial. But I had a general discussion with Dr. Craig Nossel about the business of staying healthy and the technology that's used behind it, incentivizing you to stay healthy. Craig, it's really quite a fascinating program, because Discovery has kind of almost gamified and you've made being healthy exciting and incentive, and it's a great incentive for people to be healthy. And it's kind of very proudly South African, because nobody else in the world is doing it. Is that a fair way to describe what Vitality is doing, and blending a lot of technology into that, right?
It's incredibly exciting. I mean, first, it's an exciting business. So being a South African business, but being now in the US, the UK, China, Southeast Asia, Australia. We're launching soon in Europe. I think something to be very proud of. But the issue is that we're dealing with huge health issues globally. Obesity is on the increase. People are leading sedentary lifestyles. We're just not walking and exercising enough. We're seeing things like diabetes, cardiovascular disease just continue to rise. And the whole thing is, how do we focus on prevention? But it's not just about telling people to lead a healthy lifestyle. We need to give them the tools, and we really work on the behavioral economic principle. How do you incentivize people to do things that we should be doing anyway? We sit in our offices instead of walking around. We don't exercise sufficiently, and that's what we've created the business out of getting people to be healthy.
But I think it's all very much driven, through technology. You look at a thing like the Apple Watch, for example, that you guys sell, amongst other health devices, that it encourages me to stand up. So technology is very much part of this, part of the strategy in making people healthier, right? Because, say, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do this kind of thing.
I mean, the whole technology and the whole area of wearable tech is just on the increase. We're just seeing millions upon millions of people globally, wearing these different devices, tracking what they're doing. And what we're seeing is not just in the physical activity space, but people starting to understand how you manage diabetes, recording your glucose levels, and whether you need to be getting insulin shots. So the whole space of wearable tech and technology, of apps, every day there's new apps that are being developed and being designed to help people to make healthy choices easier. Whether we launched last year, the Food Switch app, people can scan the barcode on a food item and understand, is that food good for me or not? People are confused, and so technology helps open that to a much broader range of people, that they're able to make better decisions.
Isn't it fantastic, through this mobile device, through this kind of technology, you're able to gather so much intelligence about you. Now you've got the consumer helping themselves, helping you, just keeping healthy. And this is certainly where the world is going, with these kind of health devices.
I think what we want, and I think what's important, is not to forget that we're humans. People will make mistakes. We mustn't our lives be led purely around health issues, but the greater our awareness, the better choices we're able to make. And so I think technology should be an enabler, but we still need to understand there's still that face-to-face interaction. Exercise isn't about what your watch tells you, it's also what you need to be doing. And that's what I think our Active Rewards program, we now got 210,000 people that have downloaded the app, using devices, going to gym, doing parkrun and earning points, but it's actually that activity that we're seeing the health outcomes come out at the back of that. And what it is that technology has become an enabler for those things.
So Craig, what is going on over here? It looks like you're kind of incentivizing your staff members, because I see on here, you've got your different divisions over here and how many kilometers everybody has done, hey?
So really what we're doing is, as part of living the brand. I mean, our whole vision is to get people to be healthy. And it's no good if we don't do that, personally, and the people, within the discovery world, essentially. So what we've done here is we've got a challenge. Each business unit is challenging each other business unit, and we link it into our CSI, corporate social investment.
Oh, that's quite cool.
So each team in the winning company will donate to their particular charity that they partner with. So it's bringing in exercise for our employees. This is available, throughout the day, so people can come and have a bit of a cycle, even if they're doing 5-10 minutes.
So this records everything that each staff member does, because I see you've got different
So they'll
gadgets.
put in, we're using the technology, and this is again where technology is fantastic. Monitors how far they go, and all that comes in the board, and people can come in, and importantly is, discovery for good. Can we do good? And this is what I think we're seeing companies, CSR is no longer about giving charity. It's tying into the company's strategy, the company's purpose, and how we link these things together. So staff are getting healthy, our partners are benefiting, and it's a nice way of, creating something different.
Would you like to join me?
I'd love to go for a ride.
All right. Yeah. So, you're done. Oh, thanks, man. So Craig, the business of the technology that we were talking about, and with the plethora of devices, you guys must be capturing quite a bit of data. When you look at the likes of the Fitbits of the world, the Apple Watches, the Stravas, so you've got tons of devices that you are trying to keep track of your members on how fit they are and what kind of activity they're doing, right? How big of a challenge is that?
So it's an exciting challenge. We've set up the technology that we integrate with various devices, whether it's Garmin, Polar, or Apple. so their data comes through to us.
Yeah.
Some of them we were doing through a third party,
Yes.
and it created a lot of servicing load on us. People were calling in because data wasn't coming through real time.
Yes.
So people wanted to do an exercise session and see it in the app that they did it and had been rewarded for it.
Yeah.
So some of those partners we moved away from because the verifiability of what a person was doing wasn't always correct.
Yes.
And the servicing and the support wasn't ideal. But we've still got all the major players, Fitbit, Garmin, Polo, as I said, Apple obviously, and working as new devices come out, we assess them and see how can we integrate
So
with it.
were people actually cheating the system? Because I mean, I've met people who have admitted that they put this device on a fan, going around like this to get their steps.
Unfortunately, people were cheating the system, and the more reward you put in, the more the financial incentive, it does drive some of that behavior. Unfortunately, fortunately, it's not the majority of people. Most people are exercising because they want to be healthy, and what we do helps incentivize. And we've seen that, particularly with some of the devices, people will use them for a certain period, but if there's no incentive, no program, they stop using them. So a lot of people land up in their drawers.
So now trying to verify that from heart rate, right?
So it's harder. Obviously, the Apple Watch and some of the new Garmins and that monitor heart rate using the technology on the wrist, as opposed to needing the strap.
Yeah.
But we've created a point structure that sort of talks to a variety of people. So someone who's just doing steps and walking, they get rewarded. Someone who goes into the gym, they get rewarded. Parkrun. Parkrun's now got over 400,000 people. Over 30,000 people are running 5Ks each Saturday morning.
And are they all using one of these?
No, but that's the point. The devices help, but not everyone has to have a device.
I gotcha. I think you've done very well, Craig. Well done. Take the rest of the afternoon off, Craig.
Done my right.
Yeah, you've done your right. So, Craig, it's actually a fascinating industry to be in. I mean, you look at the way their technology is moving, the way we're monitoring our health. Where does Discovery see it going in 5 years?
So I think I'm seeing two sort of streams within healthcare. Okay? The one is the more tech-based and the innovations that are happening that's going to make treatment of disease a lot more personalized as we understand the genetic makeup of individuals, and drugs and medication will be targeted at that specific individual, or a lot more targeted as opposed to let's hit and hope, which to some extent is how medicine is working. The other focus, I think, is people taking much greater control of preventing disease, and that's a space certainly that Vitality plays in. Discovery Health, obviously, in making sure that the latest technology, the latest drugs are available to our members, and Vitality is preventing as much as possible. So the longer we can keep people healthy, through lifestyle changes, keeping them active, whether it's cycling, riding, swimming, whatever that is, looking at the kids and personalizing the incentives. So the whole basis of behavioral economics, what's going to drive me as an individual? Working on areas, and that's where technology will facilitate that and make it more personalized. So you've got the prevention focus, which then lowers the cost of healthcare, and making other sort of high-tech or new technologies available because healthcare costs are lowered, where people are now needing care later down the line. I think there's also the element of bringing the doctors back into the space of prescribing lifestyle. You should be going to a doctor and saying, doctor saying to you, I need you exercise. How much exercise are you doing? Be able to use this technology, and we're already starting to do that, where a doctor can see how often you've been to gym, how many park runs you've done, what your Apple Watch is saying. And that starts to then change the healthcare system.
Sorry, Dr. Craig Nossel, I've run out of time. I've got to run. It's nice to talk to you.
Lovely
having you on the show with us. Thank you so much. I've just got to run because I'm a bit late for my... Cheers, Craig. Well, one of my favorite things, and it's become a craze now, we see it being used on Snapchat and even Facebook and Twitter. They've all got the ability for you to describe a situation or describe the mood using a GIF, or is it a GIF? But it's a GIF, I think is what it's called. And recently, Google introduced quite a cool app, and this is going to become really big, and people are going to start using more and more of these GIFs as we progress to describe moves. And
some of us call them GIFs.
Is it a GIF? I thought it's called a GIF. Okay, well look, I'm actually Googling it right now, and the pronunciation of, oh wow, look at this, everybody zoom into here. It's pronounced GIF, not GIF. I digress, because what started off as the app of the week, which has got to do with GIFs and not GIFs, It's a very interesting app, folks, and this is called Motion Stills. It's been introduced by Google, okay, and you can download it across all the different platforms. But the point of these GIFs, or GIFs, whatever you want to call them, but we'll call it GIF because
we'll just call them a GIF.
It's the right pronunciation. Is what it does is it takes photographs and it brings photos to life. So it combines the different shots you've taken and combines them to add life to the photo. So here's the app on my phone right now, and I was busy playing around with my nephew and my godson and my niece, and you can see that the phone is, here are the pictures over here, and what it's taken is it's taken a couple of still photographs, combined them, and just added a little bit of video. So it almost looks like a miniature video, but it's in fact a compilation of photographs compressed into one, and it draws the photographs from your phone and it can compile all of these. So it's really a cool way of adding a bit of life to a dull photograph. And you'll notice that you can add these now on Twitter and on Facebook and in messages, and so many people are using them. They're taking movie clips, they're taking clips from sunsets, and they're just making them really exciting, and some of them can be really funny, as you've seen in these particular ones that we've just demonstrated to you right now. So if you want to download the app, it's a really cool app. Do it right now. It's called Motion Stills. It's absolutely free and it's brought to you by Google.
Amazing how you need to make photographs of yourself more interesting, huh? Isn't that so, Jeffrey?
But, that's the story of GIFs. We hope you enjoyed it.
Well, there you have it. Do you call it GIF? Do you call it GIF? GIF, clearly. And thanks for joining us, and Jeffrey Anastasio on Techbusters.
Hey, listen, folks, on a serious note, we'd love to hear your comments about the show tonight. And if you've taken some interesting GIFs or GIFs, call them whatever you want, tweet us. We're at Techbusters SA, and you can email us at techbusters@abn360.com. I'm at Aki Anastasiou. He's at Shap Shack. Good night from us.